A year ago, when I started GHA training, I couldn't do the side fall, which is an essential technique of safety falling. I was truly afraid, and my body refused to execute it. With my back history, the calculation was immediate and very simple. Impact meant risk, and risk had a very clear consequences of pain and danger. That reaction didn't come from thinking, it came from a system that decides before you do. What changed over the last year of training is not how I feel about the moment, rather, what the body had experienced often enough to stop reacting to it. That distinction matters because confidence is usually treated as something emotional, something you either have or you don't. In reality, though, it shows up when the system has enough evidence to stop interfering. That's why most people wait for it to be there, and when it's not, nothing changes. In the beginning, I wasn't building confidence. I was actually avoiding the movement or reducing it. The exposure wasn't consistent, the difficulty didn't increase, and there was no feedback loop. I was relying on the idea that at some point I would feel ready. That never happened. The body doesn't wait for the readiness, it waits for proof. Once that changed, the process became simple. Each time the body predicted something might go wrong, and each time that prediction was slightly off. The impact was controlled, the position held, and nothing broke. The system expected risk, and it didn't happen. That is what updates it. What you see here is not confidence, it is accumulated evidence. The body has seen this enough times that it's no longer treated as a threat. The movement is allowed to happen without interference. Over time, the exposure with it an impact of slam has increased, not dramatically, just enough to move the boundary. A little more commitment, a little less control, a cleaner line, the uncertainty reduced, and with it, the threat signal. That's the mechanism. Do the movement, get evidence, update the prediction, and repeat until the body stops asking the question. What matters is the order. Action comes first. The feeling follows. For a long time, nothing felt different. The movement still carried tension, still required attention, still felt like something I had to manage. And then, at some point, it didn't. It didn't notice when it improved. I noticed when it stopped being a problem. The sidefall became part of the warm-up. When I look at it now, it's technically correct. What stands out is that it feels neutral. There is no signal attached to it anymore. Not because I train confidence, but because the system stopped flagging it as a risk. That is what confidence actually looks like. This is where midlife changes the equation, not by making you weaker, but making consequences more real. You are more aware of what can go wrong. You have more context and your identity is already formed. That makes any mismatch between what you think you are capable of and what actually happens more visible. That increases the sensitivity of the threat response. Which is why the mechanism becomes more important, not less. The body doesn't care how well you understand the movement. It updates when the experience contradicts its prediction often enough. That's what closes the gap between the knowing and doing. You see this pattern everywhere. You can prepare exactly what you want to say in the meeting and still not deliver it clearly. You can decide to show up differently and still feel slightly off. Understanding is there. The system hasn't updated yet. So the process doesn't change. You act before you feel ready. You observe what actually happened, you adjust, and you repeat. Over time, the interference reduces. The behavior stabilizes, and when the system no longer flags it as an uncertain, what remains looks like confidence. But it wasn't built directly, it was verified. Repetition builds the baseline, but it's not enough on its own. The system updates faster when the environment carries weight, when the stakes are high enough that the prediction matters. That's where controlled hardship becomes useful, not as a test of willpower, but as a way to accelerate the process of providing yourself with holds under pressure. Because in the end, The question is not whether you can perform something once. It is whether your body treats it as normal. And when something no longer requires a decision, that's where confidence actually lives.